Awesome. Have a seat. You can continue that in the welcome hall afterwards. A few things I want to point out to you this morning. If you're new or visiting this morning, right in the middle or right in the seat back in front of you is our connections card. You can fill that in. You can take it to our connections desk out in the foyer after the service, and we have a little gift for you. If you're not new and you're not visiting this morning and you're a regular, you can also fill that in if you want to get connected to certain things, if you want a prayer request, and you can put that in the offering plate as it comes by. As you entered the auditorium this morning, you should have got a bulletin. That is how you know everything that's going on here at BAC. So if you didn't get one of those, make sure to grab one as you're going out. You can also check out our website, social media, and you can subscribe to our e-bulletin, which comes out weekly at bachurch.com/subscribe. Next week, a reminder, we are back at 2 services, so 9 o'clock and 10:45. So it's great to be at one service for a few weeks, but we are back to our regular 2. A few things I want to point out just from the bulletin today. So all of our startups are coming up this week, and you can check the bulletin for all those dates just to be sure. But just a reminder that January 18th and 25th, we're going to be doing our photo directory. So spend maybe an extra 15 minutes to do your hair that morning. Come on out with your family, and I'm not saying your hair's not done this morning. I'm just saying, okay? And come on out and get your picture taken. Next Sunday, the Sunday school classes all start back up, and there's a new Believers Sunday school class that is going to be happening downstairs in 112 based on 1 John 2:6 that says, whoever claims to live in him must live as Jesus did. So if you are interested in that, it runs for 5 weeks. We also have Jackie and Dave's class that run for the year. January 13th, the Women of Joy are meeting. So that is the 50-plus ladies. It's going to be a great morning. So that's not this Tuesday, but next. And like I said, everything else for the bulletin and all the things that are going on are in the bulletin, so you can check that out. This is the last week for the offering envelopes to be out. So if you haven't picked up your offering envelopes, you can do that out in the foyer after the service. And beyond that, you can ask Ullman, and she can connect you for that. And after the service, we have a special speaker this morning that I'll be introducing in a little bit. But after the service, he's got some stuff set up in the welcome hall, and there's special snacks this week. So come on out to the welcome hall and enjoy. So let me pray for us this morning as we head into our service and this amazing new year. So Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for your goodness. God, you are good and you are faithful. You give us strength when we are weak. Nothing comes as a surprise to you, God. You are in control of all things. And we know that as we head into this new year, we don't know what to expect, but God, we know that you do. And so, Lord, I pray that we would stay tight with you, that we would know that you are in control, that we know that you love us. God, I pray you'd be with the team this morning as they lead us. Brett, as he speaks to us this morning. God, may this service be lifted up to you, and may you be glorified. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Well, we have privilege to have Brett. Come on up, Brett, to come speak with us this morning. And Brett travels North America speaking to teens and adults and parents, all sorts of different topics, parenting, mental health, pornography, dating, media, and he looks at it through the lens of faith always. Brett was a teacher with the Toronto School District Board up until 2005, where he went to get his master's degree in evangelism and leadership, and also in psychology, and he comes to speak to us this morning. More than that, though, I have known Brett since I was 9 years old, which is just a few years. But I think the one thing that Brett bonds us really is our height. We're the same height, pretty much, and but I've known Brett for a long, long time. He's been a big part, his family's been a big part of our lives for many, many years, best friend to my brother. And so it's very special for me to have him here. He was here, I think it was last year you spoke, and in the welcome hall on a Tuesday night, and it was just wonderful to have him here. So you are going to be in for a treat this morning as he comes and speaks to us. So Brett, I'm going to give it over to you, and make sure, I know he's going to say this, but make sure you come and join us in the welcome hall afterwards, where you'll get an opportunity to speak to him. So take it away. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thank you. I just have to start by apologizing. I'm going to cough through the entire morning. Did anyone have that flu back in November? I now have that 100-plus day cough after, so I'm not contagious, but if you saw me at the front, I've had 4 hauls since I was down there. Anyways, I'm going to assume for most of you, this is your first time hearing me speak. Yeah, I was a teacher. I've been a psychotherapist for the past 3 years, and I've been a speaker through that entire thing. So there's a whole kind of plethora of things that I do. But I get a chance to speak in the Christian world predominantly. I do about 8 to 10 talks in the public sphere, but predominantly in the church world, I get a chance to speak on things we either don't like, don't want to, or don't know how to talk about. Mental health being my largest, which is also why I'm sitting. Someone recently called me the sitting speaker, and I'm like, okay, that's fair. I left teaching, did a program called the Arrow Leadership Program, and did a Master's of Evangelism and Leadership down in Chicago, and then had a breakdown. And for many of us as adults, burnout and breakdown, we understand that. But I didn't really. I came home after I was doing my master's while speaking 300 speaking dates a year, being married with 2 children, and then began to get dizzy. I'm 6'6". I mean, I'd be swaying in the wind as I'm talking, and then I had my first panic attack before a speaking date. But I collapsed in a parking lot in Coburg 14 years ago. And I've never been the same. And that's a lot of the talk today. But I also speak on parenting. I speak on media, pornography. I have a new talk on marriage and a whole bunch of different things. But I want to frame this morning with 2 quotes. The first from social activist, civil rights activist, poet Maya Angelou. Many of you know this quote: "Do the best you can until you know better. And when you know better, do better." I assume we're all here. I mean, from a conversational mental health, we want to be the best that we can be in this conversation. Number 2 is from an author you might not know. His name's Alvin Tollefson. He's a futurist. He says this: "The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who can't read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn." I would put forth we as the church, not your church, the greater church, need an incredible unlearning in our conversations of mental health. I've had the privilege of crisscrossing this country in the U.S. now for almost 3 decades, and what I hear almost everywhere I travel is this: the church has hurt me more than it's helped me. We're to be the hope of the world, and the hope of the world is not destroying people, which is what the language I hear often. And these aren't big changes, they're little ones. So we're going to look at it. And I just ask you to kind of, you don't have to put your hands up, but like all our thoughts are going to be like this today. And some of them I want you to dump off, and some of them I want you to cling desperately to, but we'll walk through all of that. Forgot to mention, I am married with 2 kids. This is the only time you will ever see me in a suit. I only own one. We were at a wedding recently, as is my wife, Dawn. She's a pediatric home care case coordinator. My daughter, Zoe, just flew back up to Lakehead. She's in law school up in Thunder Bay. First year, my son Ben is just starting his master's in counseling psychology. People are always saying to me, oh, he's following in his dad's footsteps. And I'm like, no, I stole his dream. He's always wanted to be a therapist, and then I moved into it later in life. But our favorite family member is not any of us. It's Phoebe. Phoebe is our English bulldog, who's the best part of all of our days. There's only 3 types of you in this room. A, those of you who journey and struggle just like I do. And for many of you, you're staring up at me. You've never told a soul, a spouse, a family member, anyone, but you have a tough journey. 2, you're doing okay, but the people you care about are the ones who are struggling. Family, friends, children, could be anyone. But I do want to also enter a conversation of prevention. I am not saying we can prevent all mental health struggles, but I think a lot of them we could. And so we're just going to look at it from 3 paradigms. It's Frederick Douglass who once said, "It's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men." And I would add in, and women. But I love that conversation and thought. So for me, 14 years ago, I had my breakdown. I find myself at home. I'm a Christian leader, I speak on mental health, and I now can't leave my house. I can't make it the 107 steps to my mailbox. 2 houses down, mind is calm, I would begin to panic, and I'd be always kind of like, this is interesting. And so I'm in my house. I didn't leave my house for almost 5 months, and in would come friends and family. They'd sit across from me on my couch, kind of like, think of Job's friends in the book of Job, and they would say to me, "Hey, have you tried?" Put a big line and add in all the things. So the first one, almost everyone said, is, "Have you tried Jesus?" And I would say, "What do you mean by that?" And they're like, Jesus. And I'd be like, well, "What do you mean by that?" It's like, it's a chocolate bar and I haven't taken a big enough bite. And they would leave. And how do you think I would be after? I would usually cry. And then in my prayer go, "Jesus, have I tried you enough?" Next person would come in and say, "Have you tried vitamin D?" And I'm like, Jesus and vitamin D are very different things. But they're both important, and I'd try vitamin D. The next would say, "Have you tried running?" And I would say, "I haven't left my house in 5 months." And they're like, "But have you tried running?" My wife came to me 5 months in and said, what would you do if you ever spoke again? And I said, hon, I'm not. I can't leave the house. She said, putting that aside, what would you do if you ever did speak again? And I said, I want to have a different conversation. Something different that we can look. I'm a pragmatic person. What do I do as a Christian who is struggling? How do I look at moving forward? What could we do? Which was the beginning of this conversation. So here's the morning. It's really simple. I want to look at some definitions. I want to look at first steps. What do you actually do if you're here today and struggling? Number 3, where does our faith play a role in this conversation? And 4, just some practical application. And then we're done. And I hope we're not done. I really hope this morning is kind of like a catalyst, right? It's something that begins you talking as a church and families, small groups, community, work. One of my favorite quotes comes from Stephen Grekvich on this conversation. Stephen says this, herein lies one of the most pervasive misunderstanding regarding mental illness. It's that God spares this kind of pain and suffering from those with deep and abiding faith. I am not unwell because I do not have a deep and abiding faith in Jesus, but I am unwell for 14 years. Henry Cloud, author, once said, if you're filled with the Spirit, you will always be happy, in no pain or have any struggles. Then he paused and said, well, that can't be farther from the truth. It's an interesting kind of quote. But when we don't understand mental illness, we have a hard time connecting the people who barely made it to church today. And if you're like me, you're in a corner or at the back or on an end somewhere because that's where you need to be. The people who are at home today because their social anxiety is so bad, they didn't leave their house. Their depression is so bad, they didn't get out of bed. By the way, at the end of the talk, I'm going to give you a list of all the books. I have an Amazon link with all the books I suggest you do read so you can see these. So just some definitions. We say mental health and mental illness simultaneously. I think it's fine. Like when I said I struggle with mental health, none of you probably said, oh, he has seasonal affective disorder. But let's just give some definitions. So number 1 is mental health. I'm going to use an up and down axis here. Mental health is defined by the World Health Organization as a state of well-being in which everyone can realize their potential. We can cope with normal stresses in life, and a hard stop there. We are not living in normal stresses in life. I am 54. It is a different world right now. Turn the news on any given day, and there's wars and finances and mortgages and interest rates and food prices. There's a lot. But we can work productively and fruitfully, and we can make a contribution to our community. As a side note, it's okay to be blah. I think we've begun to pathologize things, and we'll walk through that a little bit more, but it's okay to feel blah or a little anxious at certain moments in your life. But another axis here would be mental illness, and this is a wide range of conditions which there's standard criteria for, and you are diagnosed by someone who can do it. I'm a psychotherapist. I cannot. I can work with. But a doctor, a psychologist, a psychiatrist diagnoses these things. One of the biggest concerns we have today, and often people say, well, teenagers diagnosing themselves. I'm like, no, anyone of any age diagnosing themselves through a TikTok video or an Instagram reel. I'm going to talk a few years ago. Up walks a 15, 16-year-old girl. She says, Brett, I have bipolar. I said, oh, I'm so sorry. I said, tell me your journey. Where did you get diagnosed? She said, well, I was looking at a YouTube video a while back, and I'm like, uh-oh. And she said, yeah, the video said if you're happy sometimes and sad others, you have bipolar. And I'm like, or you're human. Every one of you, even this morning, it's 10:46, you might have already felt happy and sad a little bit. It's okay. But a mental illness significantly affects how we think, behave, and interact. A church in the UK sent me this, and it took me a second to grasp, but I actually really like this. What they're saying is, for someone like me who has high mental illness, in the same moment, I can work at having good mental health. For some of you, you might have poor physical health, and you can still work at having good mental health. This takes a second to think of, but I actually really, really like this. I would also say, and this study, this is some of the most recent research, that we've seen a staggering growth in these things. And I will say so much of our discussion today, there is a nuance to. Some of this is we are diagnosing way too much, and I have medical doctors who would say, I agree, we are diagnosing too quickly. But I also think we are also understanding mental health better, but I would put forth that we have an unsustainable life. Our society, the way we do things, is an unsustainable kind of thing. Someone said to me once, well, mental health is a really simple conversation, and I'm like, we don't live in the same world. That, to me, is just not true. Here are just some causes or risk factors for mental illness. Number one, predisposition. Genetics, our families. Number 2, traumatic events. And for some of us, this is abuse or experiencing homelessness, neglect, abandonment, war, PTSD. For some of you, it's like me, burnout or breakdown. And as a therapist, I'm inundated with people, burnout and breakdown. It used to be adults more my age, and now I see it all the way down to high school students, the burnout and breakdown. Isolation and loneliness. COVID is long gone, and we still see this. The isolation of people. Chronic unwellness. We do well as the greater church when someone has a surgery or something else. We don't know what to do in long-term chronic unwellness. Substance use. One of the bigger ones that I see is the social media or dopamine discussion. Every time your Apple Watch taps you, you get a notification on your phone. You just had brain chemistry change. And I have a talk on media. You can see this looks different, but in that talk, I walk through some of these big things, and there's so much. The first one on comparison. If you scroll through Reels, which is all social media today, it will tell you you are not enough in some way, some shape, or some form. But just with technology, what do you see? I'm not walking through all of these, but we touch our phone all day long. For most of you, your phone's never out of arm's reach. The research now is saying it very concisely. The more Reels you watch, the worse your mental health would be. And I really wish that we could start having a counter that shows us how many Reels we watch, no matter what social media platform. Then we have other ones, the relentless pressure, stress. Many, many years ago, I went to the university fair tour down at the convention center. Some of you might have gone to this. It was palpable, the pressure as you walked around. When I speak in an elementary school, I have grade 7s and 8s who start saying, well, if I don't get the good marks here, I won't get to the right high school. If I won't get to, you can see the pressure for younger and younger people. Our diets are not good. We lack sleep, but we talk about sleep or overwork like a badge of honor. But I do think we're going to see in the next 10 years that change. Postpartum, they say statistically, a staggering amount of women struggle with this. 15 to 20% are actual postpartum. Most have never been diagnosed. Concussions, I have friends whose kids, one fell playing basketball, one got a concussion in football. Both now struggle with anxiety. And a huge one, I have a talk on parenting. The more we as adults overfunction, parents, the more our students will underfunction. And we are seeing an incredible underfunctioning as kids head off to college, university, the workplace. Just 2 quotes on that. Adolescence is now an extension of childhood rather than the beginning of adulthood. We've seen, it used to be a grade 11 and 12 was more like a college, university student. Now we're more like a grade 9 and 10. All of this has gone down. And in my parenting talk, so the purple is parenting and the kind of brown is media, just the things that have changed and shifted. We've gone from 96 to 98% of us have driver's license by the time we're 18 to 42% of 18-year-olds. But parents, I would put forth, this is our fear-based parenting. My point with this is there's a lot of different reasons and ways we struggle with mental health. So back to mental health. I would put forth that we in the church give a different set of rules to mental health as opposed to physical health. The person's throwing up in a toilet. Have you tried, not having the flu? Said no one ever to somebody with the flu. Said to everybody with anxiety. Have you tried, not being anxious? If we could think our way out of this, we would have. And we'll just go to the last one. It looks weird. It's a person giving themselves an insulin shot for diabetes. I don't think it's healthy you have to take medications every day just to feel normal. Don't you worry, it's changing you from who you really are. Said no one ever taking heart medications or anything else, but said to every single person taking a mental health medication. It was many years ago, I posted online, I need to take some medications. I actually got diagnosed with Lyme disease 7 years ago. And who knows still if this is the root or the cause, who knows, but I posted online, I got to take a whole bunch of meds. I don't do well with meds. Can you pray for me? Churches from all over wrote and said, we're going to put you on our prayer list and pray for you. It was so humbling. It was so great. It was 13 and a bit years ago, I went on meds for mental health, and I posted almost the exact same prayer. I got to go on meds. I'm not doing well. I'd love your prayers. Same kind of groups and people wrote me these wonderful things. What no one saw, though, were the private messages. Dozens and dozens and dozens of people wrote me and said, if you take a single med for your mental health, you're not a Christian anymore. Just sit on that for a second. First off, I would put forth the people writing that don't know the basic tenets of Christian faith. It's not like we believe in the Trinity, the resurrection, and taking or not taking medications. Like that is so far down on the secondary or third list. But here's the new thing I've seen. We now say, well, if you don't believe in this, the minors, how could you ever believe in the majors? And now we just put them all together. I do think we just need to start with a set of rules that we can all look at getting better. And what about medicine? I speak, my counseling is half Christians, half not. My non-Christian clients don't ask this. My Christians do. They're coming like, Brett, I love Jesus. What about medication? From asthma to sleeping pills, no one cares. Meaning if today you begin to have an asthma attack, like take out your blue Ventolin inhaler and take 2 big puffs. If you don't, we're gonna call a paramedic who will put a mask on you and do it to you in the ambulance. But the moment we hit depression and anti-anxiety medications, wow, we're so polarized. It's like politics. Now, here's what I would say. I hope you never have to take anxiety or depression medications. I hope you never do. And I think we too quickly go to that. I think there's things that we can do first. We'll talk about that in a minute. But if you need to, it's okay. It's okay. And if you need to, there's more modern science. This is called inagene.com. I was part of the pilot project at KMH, the Center for Addiction and Mental Health. They will actually, I forget how much this is, but you do a DNA test and then they actually give you a green light, yellow light, red light for medications. It's kind of like individualized medicine. So what do? You're here, you're struggling. How do we know even if our friends and family are struggling? So here's just a big list of, this could be a sign someone's struggling. Changes in eating and sleeping patterns. For the most part, though, this is just normal. Often parents are like, my teenager's staying up till 2 in the morning. And I'm like, yeah, they're 15. I'm 54. At 9 o'clock, I'm yawning, and I'm like, why am I so tired so early? Number 2, social isolation, withdrawing from church, school, and friends. This is a really big one. I ask us to be curious. Be curious when things are happening. What is going on? We need to be amongst people. If you have a chance of being online or in person, be in person, no matter what it is. Mood changes, all of these could be a sign of something, or they could be a sign of regular life. Not able to function, now we're in trouble. And if this is you, you know this, like we're at a place where we need some support. Apathy, loss of desire to do things. Now for some of us, it could just be life. This is kind of also a winter thing, the January, February, and March kind of months. It's also a thing for parents of teenagers in the grade 11 and 12 range where we begin spilling off of gymnastics or swimming or sports, which is also okay. Substance abuse, and I deal with a lot of clients who love Jesus and are struggling with addiction. I put all of this under the auspice of self-harm. We do these things to get beyond our overwhelming feelings, thoughts, and emotions. And I just think we need to find some better ways to deal with things. We feel guilty, worthless, self-deprecating statements. If someone you know or love is talking a lot about, I'm so stupid, I'm so worthless, God, how could God ever love? Like, when you hear these things, there's something going on. A sudden drop in grades could mean something. If you head to college, university, could mean you just got rocked by an exam and you need to try to study in a different way. Here's the number one sign of mental health struggles: nothing. I cannot look around the room and go, okay, good, no, good. We struggle in here, and for the mind-body connection, in here, everywhere. And I liked one thing during COVID. I liked the online check-ins, where people had to actually post an emoji of how you were doing. First, you had to learn what the emojis meant, and then you had to learn to post. But this is where I encourage us. Don't just say, how are you? There's usually, how are you? Good, you? Good. Ask a second time. How you really doing? Usually we go from good to, well, let me tell you what happened. Let me tell you what's going on in my family, my health. So what do you do if you are struggling? Not wishful thinking, not avoidance. What are the things we begin with? And this million roads in a million directions. By the way, I think it's okay to say to someone, have you tried vitamin D? But I wouldn't say this is the answer. It might have been for you or someone you know, but everyone is different. I love body, mind, and soul. I love this. It's been I've only attended 2 churches, Bayfair with Julie, and then I've been at a church now for another 20 whatever years called Sanctus, and both kind of use this motto: body, mind, and soul. Your issue could be emotional, physical. I'm at a church a number of years ago, and I put this up, and someone stands up and calls me satanic. Bad for anyone. When you have anxiety, it's just like another level, so I thought, I'll take a breath. I breathed, and I looked, and on the wall it said, meeting the physical, emotional, and spiritual needs of our community. And I said, that's satanic? And he looked over and went, my bad, and he sat down, and that was the end of that discussion. I love this. Now, if you're a Bible college student, you look at soul and say, is it soul or spirit? Another discussion for another day. I like this because it's a simple thing. Your issue might be physical, and I think a family doctor is a good place to start. We'll break that out in a moment. It might be emotional, psychological. Chat with the therapist. Now, let me walk through this. I don't say it might be spiritual, because it's unbelievably uncommon that our answer is our faith. But my faith is the bedrock, the foundation of my life. So no matter what happens in my life, that's what I will journey from that rock. And it's not a competition between God and other things. I'm at a talk and someone yells out, what about healing? And I'm like, good question. Do we as Christians believe in healing? And there's all kinds of views on this. And I would say God can do anything he wants to do. Do all people who pray for healing get healed? No. What do we do with that? What we often do is we blame the person who's unwell. You didn't do enough. You didn't read your Bible enough. You didn't pray enough. And the devastation that makes is incredible. Anne Voskamp, some of you might know her. She wrote, miracles are never a function of anyone's goodness, worthiness, or earnestness. Miracles are always about the mysteriousness of his ways. And I'm like, oh, I like that. It's a tension though, right? But talk about a hard tension. I will do the body, the mind, and the soul all the time. I really like this. You've probably heard this before. It's called the law of the instrument. If all you have in your hand is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. If all you have is theology, everything will look faith-based. And my encouragement would be this. Your toolbox is your faith. I want you desperately to grow your faith. Now, the struggle will be is if you are struggling with mental health, you will feel disconnected. You will feel disconnected from people, spouses, anything, right? If we're dealing with an emotional thing, and then we'll say, well, I don't feel God anymore. It's interesting. If you don't feel God, now we say, is God there? But faith is faith in the unseen, faith in the unknown. But God is there with you, whether you feel it or not. But grow this, and then into the toolbox, put all kinds of tools. I love that this is sideways, because everyone tilts their head, which means you will remember it just a little bit more. But into the toolbox goes tools. We're going to come back to this in a second. But what I want is a big faith toolbox filled with a whole bunch of tools. Now I want to walk very quickly through my journey of body, mind, and soul. Might be yours, might not. I've had a physical done. I've had way too much blood work done. Sleep specialist. Anyone here been to a sleep specialist before? Quick show of hands. Oh, a whole bunch of us. If you've never been, it's weird. I mean, you pull into usually a strip mall beside a Subway, and in you walk at 9 o'clock with your pillow. They strap all kinds of electrodes to you, and then they're like, I'll be watching you on that camera. Good night. First time I went, I was told, ask the doctor in the morning before your appointment, can you fix me? So I said, hey, can you fix me? He said, no. And I looked down, and he said, no, look at me. That's good. He was the first person to say this. Of all the things it could be, find sleep and scratch it off. Sleep is your issue. Sleep is my cornerstone. This is my aura ring. It tells me each morning how little deep sleep I get. Some days, 4 minutes. It's supposed to be 60, 80, 90 or more. But his point was, there's nothing that I can do to fix you. A friend of mine is a youth pastor in Alberta, has a full breakdown just like me. 5 children. I've done so well so far. He has a breakdown, and his lead pastor says to him, your issue is spiritual. You will not go to a doctor. You will not take medications. You will not go to a sleep therapist. I call that spiritual abuse. It's not okay. Not okay. He writes me 5 months into his journey. The phone call begins, I'm not long for this world. Can you hear it? He said, I can't do it anymore. I'm like, what's your biggest issue? He said, sleep. I'm like, go to a sleep clinic. If you break your arm, you go to a doctor. Go to a sleep clinic. So he goes. In the morning, he looks at the doctor and says, can you fix me? The doctor said, yeah, you have the worst sleep apnea I've ever seen in my career. He put him on I call them a Darth Vader machine, a BiPAP, CPAP machine. He's better in 1 day. Have you ever not slept? And then, like, sleep is the cornerstone of everything. Medicine, I'm not currently on medicine. I do have Ativan in my backpack, but I'm not currently on medications. But if I need it, I'll go back. There's a list of other things, but the big 3, I want you to exercise. I mean, the Bible is filled with the physical analogies. Run the good race. Your body is the temple. You know what? Your body is a temple. Whatever it is, do these things. I don't care if you're swimming, spin class, weights. I think we should be doing all of these things. But research is unbelievably clear. Exercise is the best medicine in the world for mental health. Prevention, or if you're journeying. Number 2, sleep. And sleep hygiene, some of you might know the name Andrew Huberman. He's a neuroscientist online, he's also a Christian, but he talks about 10, 3, 2, 1. 10 hours before bed, no caffeine. 3 hours, no food. 2 hours, no liquid. 1 hour, no blue light. But sleep's just the found. Have you ever gone to bed really, really late and got up in the morning to have your coffee and time with Jesus and you're just exhausted? Like, sleep is the cornerstone of all these things. And food is often the culprit or the cure. Someone did a huge research study, took grade 4 kids with anxiety. All they did was increase their diversity of foods, different colors of foods, 40% reduction in anxiety. 40. So this is medicine. While you're doing this, get some perspective, get some framework. I didn't realize that I thought my life was done. And often my therapist would just say to me, just wait. Like, do the things you need to. One day you will see a light at the end of the tunnel. Support for my emotions, referrals. And the big one here is have fun. Especially as we get older, make sure you're having some fun. And if you're like, oh, Brett, psychology, Christianity. Yeah, there's a great group called Lifeway Research who does discussions on these things. And we can look at and debate these kind of discussions. And while we're doing all this, we grow our faith. We read, we pray, we fast, we study, we give, we volunteer, we do all of these kinds of things. Our circumstances will never alter the character of God. God is God, and we are not. How about in these moments, you just say, Jesus, let me see you. Teach me something. I'm not saying your faith will fix you. I'm saying these things will build that foundation as we journey through life. And when I'm in a faith-based place, I use this. But when I'm in a public environment, I use this. But this is still good for us. Well-being, purpose, volunteering. Twice a month, my wife and I go to a place, other end of the city in Oshawa. We go to a place called The Refuge, and we help serve dinner to teenagers experiencing homelessness. No matter how bad I feel better afterwards. There's a bit of a reframing. Gratitude, every client I have has to play the 3 good things game every day. It's just one of those non-negotiables. The Bible is filled with gratitude. What are 3 things you're thankful to God for today? Do it every day. Friends and family, in my talk on media, I talk so much about one of the great things we have to offer as the church is people. I love just watching as people come in and you hug and you grab coffee and you chat, and afterwards you'll do the same. There's something so powerful and protective about people, and the church is filled with this. Mindfulness is just breathing, meaning if you're breathing anxiously, which means you're breathing with your upper chest, breathe with your belly. Reflections, and the spoons analogy is an interesting one. If you think of like wooden kitchen spoons, if you're unwell, you only have so many to give, so give them to the things that matter. School, work, the things that matter. I like that. So where does our faith play a role? Henry Nouwen once said, our life is full of brokenness, broken relationships, promises, expectations. How can we live with that brokenness without becoming bitter, except by returning again and again to God's faithful presence in our lives? Do we trust that God is who he says he is? If I never get better, God is still God. And I say this, I am not speaking some weird thing over myself. I don't think I'm getting better. I've been unwell for 14 years. I haven't slept through the night, for 14 times 365. By the way, if I never get better, God is still God, and I'm okay with that. I come to a place, I'm doing okay. I'm not great, but I will continue to do all of these things in my life. But if I get better tomorrow, God is also still God. I spent a lot of my beginning of my journey trying to think, did I do this to myself? And then I read a book by Richard Winter, and he says there's 5 reasons we suffer. He says 3 big ones, 2 little ones. And he says the little ones you got to address, but there's so much nuance. Number 1, we're caught up in a fallen world, and we're deeply affected by it. Deeply affected by it. Genesis 3 is at play. All of us have stories of randomness, car accidents. There was a windstorm in Toronto last spring, and a sign fell and killed a father. Like, it was just this random thing that happened. Number 2, we live with the effects of others' sins. People make really bad decisions, and it affects us and affects other things. Turn the news on every day, and you see these things. Number 3 is our own sinful nature. I said, everyone told me to slow down, and I said, I'll be okay. I was wrong. And I always say I wish I could go back and do my life over again during those master's years, but there's a fallacy in my thinking, because I probably would have had a breakdown, whether I was still teaching full-time, whether I was just on a normal docket of speaking, but I still wish I could go back and do it. Number 4, depending where you grew up, we talked about this too much or too little. that there is a spiritual realm. And I always just say if you want to begin a discussion on this, there's a great book by Neil Anderson. I said Neil Armstrong last year. And then I'm like, oh, wait, he went to the moon. And then someone shouted out, no, he didn't. And I'm like, how am I getting into this discussion from the front? Neil Anderson wrote a really good book on this. And then God's discipline and discipleship. And he talks about this in this book. There's verses you read and you're kind of like, God tests his prophets and his people to know what's in their hearts. It's good for me to be afflicted. And God's not giving us mental health or cancer or physical things. And he walks through that, which I really appreciate. I loved Thomas Merton's prayer of abandonment. Paraphrasing, God, I have no idea what's going on, but you're God and I'll trust you. And it was a few years ago, somebody said to me, have you read the Suffering Bible? You all know there's topical versions of the Bible, like it's the Bible with men or apologetics or women or whatever kind of put around it. This is Joni Eareckson Tada's version called the Suffering Bible. And so you'll be reading something and then there'll be these call outs of suffering. It is interesting as a side note, what you read when you're struggling. People, when I was at home, they're like, are you reading the Gospels? And I'm like, it's interesting. I'm reading Old Testament prophets. Job, Malachi, Lamentations, by the way, thank you for that. Like, I'm reading that. Ecclesiastes, which has always been my favorite book of the Bible. It's interesting what you connect with. So what do you do? I need people to listen to me, to sit with me. Now, I'm going to give you a page of things, and I always kind of just take a breath before because we've all done this, me included. But I'm just going to encourage you, maybe these aren't the best things to do. Number one, everything happens for a reason. I don't believe actually in the end that this is biblical. I believe this is actually more Islam than it would be Christian faith. This is determinism. If this, then that. Now, even if we believe in this, the number of people, I can't even tell you how many dozens sat down and said, everything happens for a reason. And what would I say back to them? What reason? I canceled hundreds of speaking dates. I wasn't a father or a husband for almost a year of my life. What's the reason? And they would go, I don't know. And they would leave. And at the end, like I call it whack-a-mole. Have you ever been to like Wonderland or like a fair and the little mole pops up? Take a 10-year-old boy who pounds it down. Like it takes everything in you to come to an environment or have someone over and then everything happens for a reason. It's kind of like a whack-a-mole. Don't be anxious about anything. This has never helped anyone. I also would put forth, this is not your modern day mental health anxiety. The word is more worry, but even then, some of you are worriers and some of you are not. Are you still reading your Bible? I still get this. Are you still reading your Bible? And I'm like, are you saying if I stop reading my Bible, God does this to me? Then they're like, well, I'm not saying that. I'm like, it sounds like you're saying that. And then we have a very awkward conversation. I'm going to skip a bunch of these. If you need any help, let me know. Someone wrote, what's her name? Amy Simpson, in her book, Scattered Minds, said that mental illness is a non-casserole illness in the church. A number of years ago, I liked to bike outside. I hit mud. I didn't even get my arm out. The doctor just said when he came in, you broke basically this. Like 9 bones, all my ribs. A few hours later, I had this awesome orange cast, and I posted online, and well, the meal train started. When I was at home with my mental health journey, you want to guess how many meals came in? It's interesting. Like we view it differently. God won't give you more than you can handle is not in the Bible. God won't tempt you more than you can handle is in the Bible. We can't just change these things. D.A. Carson calls this an illegitimate totality transfer. Wonderful word. He says, we're reading every possible meaning of a word into a single use of the word. 2 Corinthians 1, 8-11. Paul and his companions were so utterly burdened beyond their strength that we despaired of life itself. Indeed, we felt we had received the sentence of death. They feel what? They feel like they have more than they can handle. When we have more than we can handle, we lean back on God. Is there sin in your life? People say this to me all the time, and I'm like, yeah, lots. Then they don't know what to say. Because they're waiting for me to say no, and then they'll say, well, this is why it's happening. Have you tried praying every day of my life? You'll be okay. Can I just encourage you? Don't say this. Why? Because we don't know. We don't know. Don't say, well, at least. Last summer, somebody rocked my world for quite a while. They said, well, at least you don't have terminal cancer. I said to my wife, I thought I was doing a lot better. And that's the comparison someone gave to me. Don't say, snap out of it, be tougher, stop being so dramatic. Here's what we can say. How are you today? One of my favorite ones is a friend of mine who says, I got 5 minutes, tell me how you're doing. Like, I love it. Like, it's a simple thing. Say, I'm praying for you, and actually do it. Like, whether you're a physical, like I'm a physical and digital Bible person, but whether it's a piece of paper in a Bible and you put what's going on in someone's life and you pray for them, or if you're digital, which I use a lot, and I would put your text and what's going on in your life. But if you're going to tell someone, I'm going to pray to the creator of the universe for you, you better do it. Say, I'm sorry you're going through this. Say something, say anything. Do you know how many people in my life are not in my life anymore after my breakdown? And I don't know why. It's okay to say, like, it's kind of like when you go to a funeral, like, or the visitation before, there's nothing to say. Like, what you're saying is you are there. I love how many people just lamented with me. They just came and sat with me and watched a Blue Jays game, or they were just there. Give them a hug. I had to add in ask first. Somebody ran over and gave someone a hug they didn't know. It's not really what I'm saying, but you know your inner circle of people, and it's okay to give someone a hug. Sit with them. Ask, how is your struggle going? I'm speaking out in Alberta, and the children's pastor, worship pastor, that's a huge docket as a side note, but she had breast cancer, and I said, hey, how's your breast cancer going? She bursts out crying. Pastor beside me punches me in the shoulder, kind of jokingly, and said, you can't ask someone that. And she looked at him. It's this whole whirlwind of stuff. She looked over at him and said, he's the first person to ask in 2 years. We are the church. You can turn to anyone at any time that you know and say, how are you doing over someone's death or something, or you're sick? Like, it's okay to ask. And we may respond in tears. It's okay. And talk about something else. I do not need to talk about my unwellness all the time. I want to talk about lots of other things. And a lot of you are looking at the word shawarma going, shawarma's healing? Yes. Darkest day of my life. Remember, suicide is wanting your pain to end, not wanting your life to end. Darkest day of I never went down that path. I was close. Darkest day of my life, my wife's gone, my kids are gone. I'm sitting on the family room floor at 11 o'clock in the morning. And I get a phone call. One of my board members, his wife says, hey, do you wanna? And she pauses and says, I'm getting a shawarma. I'll be there in a little while. If you're ever driving through Ajax, my favorite restaurant's a place called Pita Delights, Arab Christians from Nazareth. When I walk in, they call me Brother Brett. So she passed a little bag to the door. She says, God bless, praying for you, left. I went back and sat on the floor and I took a bite and I'm like, in all my unwellness, I said, there's something about food. Do you know what I miss most from my Baptist roots? Potluck Wednesdays. Because you would eat together. There's something so powerful about food. If they want a Big Mac or whatever, just food is an amazing thing. It reminds me of 2 Corinthians 1:3, who comforts us in all our troubles. Why? So that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves receive from God. Some thoughts, resources, and we're done. Please advocate for each other. Here's the disconnect. The unwell and the well don't know how to connect. We don't know what we need as the unwell, and sometimes you don't know what to give as the well, but it's finding a way to connect those things together. Dr. Dan Siegel, if you're a parent, please follow him online. He says, we need to help Let's Change Children to everyone understand that the clouds of their emotions can and will roll on by. I'm sorry you're unwell today. It doesn't mean tomorrow will be the same. And I love this. If one door's not working, choose another. If one counselor's not working, choose another. One med's not working, choose another. One extra, kick at the darkness till it bleeds daylight, said Bruce Coburn many, many years ago. This is a battle. This is a war, and I often don't see this. Even my own clients come in, and they're not exercising, they're not sleeping right, they drink way too much caffeine, they don't have any friends, and they're like, I don't feel good. It's like, really? Let's start with that stuff. It is fully in our control. And as Winston Churchill said during war, never, never give up. Some resources. So I know I come in as a speaker and then I leave. And so my website is my name, brettallman.com. On it, I have 1,600 links. Most are not mine. Here's a book, here's a quote, here's a TED Talk, here's a sermon. They're all online. This is a video I did here called Control the Controllables, caffeine. Young girl walks up to me after a talk on an evening, and it's 8 o'clock at night. She waits till everyone's gone, walks over, and she says, so I'm struggling with anxiety and depression. My church says I'm demonized, and I'm like, another conversation there. And then she says, and my doctor and mom are putting me on mental health medications tomorrow. And I said, I am so sorry. She's cradling a Venti coffee. And I said, Decaf, right? It's 8 o'clock at night. She said, no, caffeinated. I said, how many caffeinated coffees do you have a day? So she looked up and to the left. If you know brain, she's processing. If you said to me, how many coffees do you have a day? 2. I have 2 every day of my life. Around 9 in the morning, around 11 in the morning, that's it. So she's thinking, and I'm like, how many coffees do you have a day? She said, I think, and for anyone who knows current culture, I hate to say this, but she says it's 6 or 7. Thank you for the students in the back. The principle of Occam's razor is how I counsel. If you don't know the term, Occam's razor is this: the simplest answer is usually the answer. Her church went straight to demons. Her doctor went straight to meds. That many coffees a day. Cut your coffee down. If you're struggling with depression, go for a walk every day. Get some better sleeps. Get some people around you. Build your faith. Like, there's things that we can do. Then we look at the other things. Right at the very top is all my social media. Right in the middle is my Amazon A. On that you will find all the different books and all the different categories. I've read every single book I post here. I would never tell you to read something that I wouldn't. I also have a YouTube channel with around 250 videos, all kinds of different things. These are just some of the mental health ones. I know your church has filmed this. It will be on YouTube, but I have many copies of it online. I have a talk on pornography and a talk on dating online. And I began putting my things in chorus formats. Does your church have Right Now Media, by the way? No. I have these. I'm pretty sure they're on my YouTube channel as well. But my parenting and my men navigating everything talk is also online as a small group chorus. And my wife would always be like, the men navigating everything is a really good talk for women. And I'm always like, Dawn, I'm never doing a talk called Women Navigating Everything by Brett Ullman. The mansplaining that would happen in an hour talk. There is some stuff that could be helpful. I did recently film my media talk, which is remember the 8 categories of technology, comparison and things? And I did recently film my new talk on marriage, which is what I've learned as a couples therapist over the past 3 years. Just some books. Now, I will say this, if any of you are authors, I would encourage us as Christian authors to have a more robust view of things. Some of the best books we have on things are not faith-based. The black cover here, Johann Hari's Lost Connections. We've lost connections with people, with purpose, with nature, I would add in, and faith. But The Anxious Generation's a wonderful book for those of us who want to look at the conversation of media and technology. And The Reality Slap, if you've gone through something really hard, this is a counseling guy, Russ Harris, with his book, The Reality Slap, which is just amazing. And look at the one on the right: Sleep Better, Eat Better, Move Better, Think Better. During COVID, I released a 3.5-year journey. This is actually 7 books in one. The new Canadian statistics say that 68% of Canadians read 0 books last year. People now say books are boring. Can you see how reels are changing us? And I would encourage us, we need to read our scriptures for sure, and then read books. So the first 7 chapters are for parents, but the last 9 chapters are written to anyone, middle school and above. The biggest chapter by far is on mental health. There is a study guide, and there's also an Audible book. I read my own book. It's actually my voice. 2 slides, and then we're done. My counselor once encouraged me to put this on my wall, and I put it all over my house. Great courage with great care. For those of us who are unwell, great courage. Some days you will get up, and I get it, and you're like, I don't know how I'm going to do my day. But great courage. Get breakfast, get changed, go do what you need to do. But then when you're done, great care. I have been struggling with my voice, and I will go home today, and I will have great care. I will probably go for a walk. I will watch the Buffalo Bills game. I will do some things that I will relax and do. But you need to know what it is for you that those things are. I love body, mind, and soul. I love it. Why? Because we can all do it. And no matter your beliefs on body, mind, or soul, I think we can all move forward in these things. I answer all my own emails. If you have a question, you can send it through. I will be out in the other, what do you call it? Foyer? Auditorium? Welcome hall. Sorry. But I'll be out there and I'll chat as long as anyone wants. Thank you so much for having me in for a talk like this morning. Hope you have a great day. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.